Well, India has rejected allegations its government was involved in the assassination of a Canadian Sikh leader. Canada and India have both expelled senior diplomats as tensions between the two nations deepen. Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau revealed allegations of a potential link between India and the assassination of Hardeep Singh Najjar in June. Najjar had been branded a terrorist by Indian media for his advocacy to form an independent Sikh homeland.
Any involvement of a foreign government in the killing of a Canadian citizen on Canadian soil is an unacceptable violation of our sovereignty.
And joining us live now is a friend of Hardeep Singh Najjar and a spokesperson for the British Columbia Sikh Gurdwara Council, Maninder Singh. Really appreciate you making the time for us. Thank you so much. Firstly, we're sorry for your loss. Just start by telling us a bit about Hardeep. Why was he such a significant figure in your community, and was he fearful for his life before being shot?
Yeah, he was hugely instrumental in kind of revamping the Sikh sovereignty movement for Khalistan. Giving it a new kind of new strategy, organizing individuals. He was deeply committed to the community. Education centers were built by him. So I think from every walk of just normal life, elementary schools were open, daycares were provided. He was taking care of international students that were coming from Punjab in large numbers. So he had a really strong kind of a support system around him. And he was very aware of the fact of what was going to happen. A year prior, in July of 2022, almost a year before his death, there was 5 individuals in the Sikh community, myself being one of them, and Hardeep Singh and others, that were warned by the national security in Canada that our lives were at imminent threat of assassination. And national security only gets involved in Canada when there's a foreign threat and it's not a localized threat. So we knew that this was something that was beyond just a local threat. The rest of us were cleared. Hardeep was actually for a full year, almost up to his death, being warned by security agencies in Canada that he was under threat and there could be something done to him or him harmed in some way. And that led right up to his death in June of 2023. But nothing was provided in form of protection. Nothing additional was done. While we know that Canada was well aware for years now about Indian interference. So this declaration or this announcement, where there's an appreciation for the fact that the way it was done from the Parliament floor and the ramifications it may have on India-Canada relations. There's also a bit of frustration in the very large Sikh community out here as to how long it took, as India and Canada in this relationship, Sikhs in the Canadian community have been saying for almost 4 decades, with evidence, with Indian diplomats being expelled before in the 1980s as well, that this foreign interference is happening.
Yeah, and just expand on that a little bit for us. We're a long way away, obviously, here in Australia. So if you could just describe for us the political landscape there in Canada in terms of Sikh living there and how that ties in with what is happening back in India.
Yeah, the Sikh community in Canada is quite large. Sikhs form a huge kind of form of the Canadian political atmosphere as well. There's currently, from just a Sikh Punjabi background, over 20 MPs that actually sit in Parliament. A very active community, been here for over 100 years. As people refer to it as a fabric of Canadian society. So we have a strong voice in Canada and always have for the Khalistan movement in Punjab to break away from India, to reclaim what was lost before the British actually colonized India, where we had our own homeland, our own culture was protected, language, way of living. All of those things were in a different kind of format than they are now currently. So that movement really has a huge kind of support base in Canada. And ongoing, India has had this strained relationship with Canada around the Khalistan movement in Canada, people that actually express their freedom of expression, freedom of speech in Canada to actually push the Khalistan movement forward. So I think the Sikh community in Canada, it's very large, it's very vibrant, it's very active. And because of all of that, all those portions that are actually involved in the Khalistan movement make a lot of noise that India doesn't want to see around the world. And for that reason, I think they're trying anything they can. And initially it was to malign the Sikhs, call them extremists, call them radicals, attack the way we look, and all of those things were kind of being brought forward. And this is just kind of I would call as in the final kind of step they did, which is to actually come onto foreign soil in Canada and actually kill a Sikh leader here, which is just unprecedented, I would think.
Well, it is making waves right around the world. Our own Foreign Minister, Penny Wong, has said that she finds these reports very concerning and that she has raised this with representatives of India's government as well. Where do you see this going from here? What are you expecting will happen next?
I think one of the things we're demanding in Canada right now is a public inquiry into India's foreign interference, false flag operations that they run in Canada. Like similarly, what you've seen yourselves in Australia, very recently there was a Hindu mandir that was vandalized. No place of worship ever should be vandalized, in our opinion. It was blamed by India immediately on Sikhs. And now Queensland Police has actually come out and said that there's a Hindu hand behind it. But these types of false flag operations happen in Canada all the time as well. And we're well aware of this strategy. So one of the things we're asking for is, like the Canadian government, American, UK, Australian, wherever there's a significant Sikh diaspora sitting, is not to take verbatim what picture India is painting of the Sikh community or even of the Khalistan movement, is to rely on their own intelligence. In Canada, we have intelligence sharing agreements with India that have really set us back since 2018. We're asking for those to be frozen or removed. That because of those agreements, Canada is sharing a lot of information with India around Sikh activists in Canada. And on the flip side, India is providing a significant amount of like false information and propaganda, which India is providing to Canada, which Canada is taking almost verbatim. So we have 2 or 3 different areas we're trying to focus on. The expulsion of a senior Indian diplomat from here was a great first step. It showed that there's going to be action behind these words, and it's not going to stop here. India and its tit for tat did the same thing, even though it was a ridiculous kind of statement that Canada is now interfering in Indian affairs, and that's why this individual is being removed. But we know that at the end of the day, that Canada has a long history of documenting Indian foreign interference. This is just the first time that it's actually been publicly acknowledged in this way.
Maninder Singh, really appreciate you making the time to explain all of that for us. We appreciate you joining us live there from Canada. Thanks so much.
Very much appreciated. Thank you.